students, and welcome to the weekly news. This week we're going to have a segment on the freshwater biome at the Chattahoochee River. Come along, we'll show you the way. Well, today we're taking you to the freshwater biome here at the Chattahoochee River in the United States of America. They occur everywhere, all over the world, as you can see on this map. Wow, look at all that beauty. The freshwater biome consists of ponds, lakes, streams, and rivers, like this one you see here.
The freshwater biome is very important for Earth's diversity, and it's also important for transportation, irrigation, and recreation like we're doing today, as well as water power. It covers about 1/5 of Earth's surface total. And actually, 1/2 of our drinking water comes from here, so it's very important to preserve that. Along with this, only 3% of fresh water is accessible, and only 1% of that is drinkable, so they are very important.
Because the freshwater biome is spread throughout the world unevenly, climate and precipitation vary. In the freshwater biome, there's about 10 to 80 centimeters of precipitation a year, and temperature ranges from about 35 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit.
Another cool characteristic of the freshwater biome is that it varies in depth. For example, a lake could be thousands of feet deep, or a river or pond, like this, or a stream, could be very shallow, so it ranges greatly. The freshwater biome has a bunch of different types of soils, as you can see here. These include silt, sand, and clay mostly. Check it out. Silt supports the most life because it has good airflow and lots of nutrients. Sand supports some life, but it needs silt and clay mixed in because it doesn't hold nutrients or moisture very well. Finally, clay is rich in nutrients, but supports those that do not need a lot of airflow.
Now we're going to talk about a food web present in the freshwater biome, just like our friend of ours, trout, right here.
Thanks, Olivia. Now let's explore a food web that you might find in one of these freshwater biomes. Down here to start, we have the autotrophs that include things like algae and phytoplankton. They make their own energy. Next, at the first trophic level, we have things like shrimp, water fleas, and insects, who are then eaten by the second trophic level by things like frogs, turtles, crabs, and crayfish. To top it all off, at the third trophic level, we have things like cranes, otters, and trout that eat these animals below.
How about energy flow, Taylor?
Right, energy flow. Energy flows up the food web. However, only 10% of energy makes it from one level to the next. For example, algae may start with 1500 kcal of energy. However, when it's eaten by the shrimp right here, he only gets 150 kcals. Up to the crab, he will only receive 15, and then finally, Mr. Otter right here will only receive 1.5 kcals of energy.
Wow, look at all this vegetation. Although they aren't present here, water lilies and cattails are two very important plants in this biome. Water lilies have big leaves that float on the surface to attract sunlight for photosynthesis, and they also have thorns underneath to protect against predators. They're called nymphaea, and the most common in the US is Nymphaea odorata, or the North American white water lily. They release many seeds and only few survive. The next plant I would like to discuss is the cattail. They have narrow strap-like leaves that reduce their resistance to moving water. Tymphaceae is the most common in the US, or T. augustifolia. They have tiny hairs that facilitate wind dispersal, and they release many seeds. Sometimes the thorns on plants think you're a predator and trap your hair.
Oh no, a snake!
Whoa!
Just kidding. But there are some other animals that are important in the freshwater biome that we can talk about, like otters and salmon. Otters are animals with velvety, waterproof coats that act as insulation in those cold waters right there. Along with that, they have fur on the bottoms of their feet for better traction and warmth. They have four-webbed feet and a propeller-like tail to help them travel fast in the water, and along with that, they can close their ears and nostrils using valve-like flaps to keep water out as they're traveling. The most common in the US is the Lontra canadensis, which is the North American river otter, and they're case-selected. They live longer and they are larger animals. Salmon are the other animal we can talk about. They drink 7 liters of water per day to offset dehydration. Along with that, their kidneys produce large volumes of dilute urine to cope with all that water that's diffusing into their bodies as they swim. Finally, they are selected, but because they do not care for their offspring. The Atlantic salmon in the United States, that's common, is called the Salmo salar. Wow, look at all the geese.
A keystone species is one that greatly affects the health of an environment and ecosystem, and if it were to be removed, it would alter the habitat greatly. An example of this in the freshwater biome is salmon, salamanders, and crayfish. There are many community relationships in the freshwater biome. The first one, mutualism, is in nearly all lakes across the world. Algae and fungi work together to form communities called lichens, or cladonia. Another form of a community relationship is called commensalism. Many species of pondweed or Pondomogeddon provide protection and shelter to numerous species of fish, particularly freshwater shrimp, or Macrobrachium rosenbergi.
The Ichthyopitherius multifilus called ick infects nearly all freshwater fish and lives on them. The final community relationship is predation. This includes when animals like herons and ducks, or Anas platyrhorogos, eat small fish, like crayfish, called cambaroos.
Same species, both living in the Chattahoochee River, cannot coexist due to the competitive exclusion principle. One of the species will use up all the resources, causing the other one to either lead to extinction or move to a separate niche.
Although the freshwater biome is a great place to live, there's some animals that are threatened or endangered here. For example, the Apache trout, or the Oncorhocus apache. The main risk for them is its easy hybridization with the rainbow trout or major forest fires.
Another endangered species is the bog turtle, or Glyptomus muhlenbergi. Invasive species in urban development have eradicated much of the bog turtle's habitat, substantially reducing its numbers.
Finally, the mussel, or the Epioblasma trichetra, is endangered too. 70% of North America's freshwater mussels are already extinct or are endangered because they need very clean water to survive, but disturbances are preventing that, such as logging, river impoundments, agricultural runoff, or shoreline development. Sad.
An invasive species is an organism that causes ecological or economic harm in a new environment where it's not native. The first invasive species is a zebra mussel, or Dracaena polymorpha. It's native to Eastern Europe and Western Russia, but it was unintentionally introduced into the United States Great Lakes through discharge of the contaminated cargo ship Blast Water. They attach to and kill native mussels. They also filter tiny food particles out of water, reducing available food for fish and other organisms.
Another invasive species, hydrilla, or Hydrilla verticillata, is from the warm waters of Africa, Asia, and Australia. It became invasive in the United States in the 1950s and 60s when aquariums released into the Florida waters. They're a very competitive and aggressive plant, even outcompeting plants like pondweed and eelgrass.
Water flow rate is an important abiotic feature in the freshwater biome because many organisms can only survive at certain water flows. For example, water flow is very important because it can flow plankton into certain mouths and it can flow oxygen into gills of fish. Wow.
Salinity is another very important abiotic factor in these biomes because waters here have less than 1% of salt concentration. Plants and animals here can't deal with the large content of salt concentration, and so they find their home here.
Sunlight level is also a very important abiotic feature in the freshwater biome. For example, many plants need sunlight in order for photosynthesis, and that's why we find them here on the surface of waters. And another example, many organisms also need light in order to find food, and that's why we'll find them living at the top of waters.
And now over to Andreas to talk about some concerns we have in the freshwater biome.
Thank you, Taylor, and hello to all. One man-made ecological problem facing the freshwater biome is habitat fragmentation. Habitat fragmentation is caused by dams, which are necessary to fulfill the Earth's needs and find more renewable resources. Since the 1950s, the water impoundment caused by dams has increased by 4 times. Think about that, 4 times. This is an issue because it prevents fish from being able to migrate and reproduce with other species, which affects the biodiversity of the area. In order to solve this problem, we should study the area in which a dam is being placed to see if it will affect the ecosystem and prevent fish from repopulating. Another problem in the freshwater biome is the exploitation of fish. This hurts biodiversity because it depletes populations and can cause species to be extinct from an area and never return. Therefore, it is necessary for the government to put limits or quotas on the amount of fish that can be caught in an area to protect the ecosystem and keep the fish there. As for governmental concerns, we should be concerned about the freshwater biome due to the great economic value they provide for our society. They provide drinking water, irrigation, water power, fisheries, and especially transportation, which is essential to our thriving economy. As you can see, the freshwater biome is very important to our society. Therefore, governments should implement laws and regulations to protect the freshwater biomes and so that they can continue to be an integral part of our society. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on our amazing adventure, learning about the
flora,
fauna
And characteristics
of the freshwater biome. See you later!